on this episode of Raising the Wild Ones podcast.
So it's just today, Dustin's not with us. It's just me and my wife, Jessica.
Dustin can edit this out, right?
Yeah.
You're going to break the table. Dustin, if you're listening, you got to edit this part out. So I have to actively remind myself a lot of times that, yeah, I'm their mom and it's my job to take care of them and I'm going to take care of them and I love them so much, but I'm also your wife and I also have responsibilities and duties that are associated with being a wife. And I'm just laughing because literally every time you come in the door, the 4-year-old says, "Daddy, how was your podcast?"
Or every time I put a camo shirt on, they're like, "You're going hunting?" I'm like, "It's July. I'm not going hunting right now."
Raising the Wild Ones podcast.
All right, on today's episode of Raising the Wild Ones podcast, we have a very special guest, my beautiful wife, Jessica, who's staring at me. And it's making this awkward, so here we go. So it's just today, Dustin's not with us. It's just me and my wife, Jessica. Hello.
Oh, hello.
We also just have one microphone, so we're kind of going in between the one microphone, so this is interesting. So, hello. Wait, I already said that. So, do you want to tell us a dad joke? How about that, since you're a mom? That didn't make sense.
Okay. I have two, and you've already heard them, so you don't have to answer. Okay. What's white and can't climb a tree? A refrigerator. And then there's another one. Wait. Okay. What's brown and sticky?
I don't know.
A stick.
That's pretty good. Another one I'm going to go ahead and use. What's red but smells like blue paint? Red paint.
I thought you were going to say the brick one.
We'll save that one for later. All right, so now Jessica has some trivia questions for me.
Okay.
All right, let's hear them.
All right, Bible trivia. Let's see how good you are. Okay, we'll start off with the easy one. Who was King Saul's son?
I believe his name was Jesse.
Wrong.
Wait, what? What was his name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. I knew it was a J. Oh, man.
So close. Okay. What feast day did Jesus and his disciples celebrate at the Last Supper? You know this.
The Passover.
Correct. Let me find the challenging ones now.
I will say I wanted to ask Jessica some Bible trivia, but she basically just wanted to make me look bad, so that's why I'm not asking her anything.
That's not it. It is, you know more about the Bible than I do, which is why you're my spiritual leader, and I ask you questions. Okay. What evil king surrounded Jerusalem for 1.5 years? It's a crazy name.
I'm going to say Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, there you go. See? Let's see. What book is a collection of songs and poems designed to praise God?
The Book of Psalms.
Good job. See, you knew them. This isn't making you look bad. Who predicted 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine?
Joseph.
Good job. You want to just keep going? There's like 1,000.
That's probably good.
Yeah. Well, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I figured we could talk about it. We didn't really have this planned out, so.
It's very unlike you to not plan anything.
Yeah, normally this is planned out a lot better, but we just kind of were like, no, let's record one real quick and see what happens. So
let's talk about us.
Let's talk about, how about this? Let's say you're talking to somebody who's about to have a child.
Uh-huh.
What advice would you give them?
This is coming at a bad time because I just spent 30 minutes trying to get all 3 of our kids to bed, and I had to sit and explain to a 4-year-old why he has to sleep and why he can't stay up all night long. So it's coming from a tired point of view. But if I had to give one bit of advice for someone who was going to become a mom, I would say start praying now. Kids are pretty much self-fulfilling prophecies. So start saying now, my baby's going to sleep, my baby's going to sleep, my baby's going to sleep. Start praying for those things now. Start speaking those things into existence now of what you want your child to be. And, just trust in God and it'll be good.
And I think we can give pretty good advice on this topic for somebody who's about to have a baby, because the first child we had, we did not do a good job as far as like when we brought him home. But the second one, I feel like we did really good. So basically, when we brought our firstborn, when we brought him home, we thought that somebody basically had to be awake with him 24 hours a day. So it's crazy thinking about it, thinking back on that. But so essentially we like lived in shifts for a couple days where Jessica would sleep for a while, then she'd wake up and I'd go to sleep. But he was also awake all night. But then our second child, and so it was terrible for a couple days until we figured that one out. But our second one, we were like you said, we just were like, he's going to sleep. So we put him in his bed and closed the door, and he slept. I mean, we didn't do anything that like.
I mean, we took care of him.
Yeah, we took care of him.
We went in there when he cried. We fed him and stuff. But I also think we were young with our first one, and we kind of we took little bits of advice from people, and we tried to make it work for us. And then also we kind of thought we knew everything already, and we didn't need help. That was the problem, is we thought, oh, we got this. And by the second one, we were like, oh, we have no idea what we're doing. And the third one, we're like, he'll survive.
Yeah. By the third one, you're like, yeah, he'll be all right. So next question, what advice would you give to, say, a young couple that just got married about marriage?
I would say the thing about marriage is you wake up every day and you have to actively choose just be with that person. It's not easy. Not every day is going to be easy, and there's going to be seasons that are more difficult than other seasons. But at the end of the day, when you get married, you make a promise to that person, and you make a promise to God that you're going to honor them and love them and care for them and stay with them. And so when times get tough, you pray through it, you work together, you try your best to grow together as you go through stages of life. You do it together as a team. We decided a few years ago that it had to be the two of us and God versus the world, essentially, versus our kids. And then at the end of the day, we had to be a team, because when you turn on each other, it gets ugly really fast. So I would say good times, bad times, you're with that person. They're your person. You stick with them, and you make sure that they always feel loved and respected and cared for, even if you don't feel like loving them, respecting them, and caring for them.
And I was thinking about this. You kind of basically, you're for a while in marriage, it's hard to get past worrying about yourself more than the other person, if that makes sense. So like, I feel like we may have spent some years where we were more focused on trying to figure out what we could get out of marriage and that kind of stuff. And eventually you have to realize, the Bible says wives submit to husbands, and husbands also submit to wives and take care of them, and all that kind of stuff. So I think the quicker in a marriage you realize that, like you said, it's a team and you have to work together, and it's you two as one against the world. Kind of like Blue said in the last podcast, like the family of group of 5 versus the world. It's that same concept where, at least in a marriage, especially starting out, the quicker you realize that you are one, the better it'll be. So, yeah.
And I think that for women specifically, it's really easy to kind of get lost in motherhood. It's kind of easy to forget that you're also somebody's wife when you're so busy being somebody's mom, because your kids really demand a lot out of you. So I have to actively remind myself a lot of times that, yeah, I'm their mom and it's my job to take care of them and I'm going to take care of them and I love them so much, but I'm also your wife and I also have responsibilities and duties that are associated with being a wife, and don't let that get swept under the rug. Don't let that get lost in there, because kids can take up a lot of you.
All right, next question. Next question. Do you believe in ghosts?
This is
The microphone's falling.
This is a very big topic in our household right now. I don't know why. I don't know who. If you're out there and you talk to my kid about ghosts, we're going to have some words. I don't know who talked to our kids about ghosts.
Well, I will say that one of our boys had a sleepover with a friend, and they did the typical stay up telling scary stories to each other, and then they got scared, and then they wanted all the lights on and had a hard time going to sleep. So,
but no, I do not believe in ghosts. I told the boys the only ghost I believe in is the Holy Ghost, and outside of that, I'm not worried about it. God's got it.
that's a good response. I like that. So, do you believe in aliens?
No. You know what? I have kind of a lazy Christian point of view on all of that. Like all this conspiracy stuff, maybe part of it is just my personality, but I'm like, you know what? If God wanted me to know about it, I'd know about it. I don't really get into all that stuff, all the aliens and the ghosts and the paranormal stuff and skinwalkers and all that weird stuff. I just think I got my hands full with just day-to-day life of teaching and being a mom and being a wife and trying to keep goldfish out of the couch cushions. So I figure God's got all that.
That's an interesting answer. I enjoy that stuff. It's fun to listen to and talk about. So, do you have any questions for me?
Okay, my question is, how do you balance? You've got a lot going on in your life right now. How do you balance being a dad, being a husband, being a deacon, having a podcast? How do you decide what gets the best parts of you?
I think you have to, I try to do my best to prioritize the important things, and I do my best. Hopefully, I don't know if I always do a good job with it. You're laughing at me, but I try my best to prioritize things, and I think you got to set your life up where God's number one, and, doing what you can to obey him and serve him. And then your family comes number two, and then essentially anything past that. And I'm very bad about having tons of hobbies such as podcasting and hunting and fishing. And I went through a fly fishing phase. I went through a fly tying phase. I used to make paracord products, and that was I enjoyed that. I made some money. Let's see, archery. What else? What are some other hobbies I've had?
Hiking, reading. That's all I can think about.
I'm sure there's more. But you got to basically prioritize your faith, your family, and past that.
I'm just laughing because literally every time you come in the door, the 4-year-old says, "Daddy, how was your podcast?"
Or every time I put a camo shirt on, they're like, "You're going hunting?" I'm like, "It's July. I'm not going hunting right now."
Okay, speaking of that, what do you think, what would you describe as the biggest difference between a mom raising boys and a dad raising boys? What do you feel like you have to do different than I do to turn our boys into men?
I think you have to. The dad's role is quite a bit different than the mom's role, and I think as a man you have to step up and make sure you're trying your best to raise them in a way in which they will grow up to be a good, godly Christian man. Today's world is leading, especially young men, down a terrible path, I think, where masculinity is being taken out of that role. And I think so as a father, you have to do your best to make your kids young men. And now, whether that's getting them outside, playing sports, whatever, you just got to do your best to do that. That wasn't a good answer.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think.
Oh, and a mom. I think the mom's role is quite a bit different. You're there to, catch them when they fall, and you're a lot more comforting. Like if a kid, like let's say Lake falls and like trips and falls and starts crying, my first reaction is to laugh and say, "Get up. We're tough. We're going to be tough." And your reaction is to give me a mean look or give me that look like, "Are you serious?" And then like go pick him up and cuddle him and comfort him. And I'm like, "Suck it up, buttercup."
Yeah. I just think they need both. They need a little bit of sweet. They need a little bit of tough. They need some tough love and some love, which I'm about the tough love too. I can give them tough love too. I'm a pretty tough mom. Part of that comes from being a teacher and saying, no, you're not going to act like that. You're going to get your life together. What else?
Do you want to sing us a song?
Absolutely not.
Would you like to do a snort wheeze for us?
Absolutely not.
A turkey gobble?
Okay, that's enough of that. What would you say is your goal for this podcast? You said a lot. I listened to every episode. You said a lot of goals.
Well, the first few episodes we did have like 15 goals, I think. Like we just kept saying different goals. I think the biggest goal over, through this whole process has just been a way to share our faith, I think, and a way to talk about God and Jesus and things like that. And I think it's basically just another avenue in which we can kind of spread the gospel and put it out there in maybe a different format. And I've heard several people listening to this that I thought, hey, that's cool. Maybe they've listened to, and I think this is, I guess what I'm trying to say is this is a way in which probably more people have heard me talk about the gospel through this avenue, I think, than anything else. So I think that's a good thing. Like we had, if you're out there listening, send us an email. It'd be cool. We had like people from Iran download this at one point. So, there's people in Iran listening to us now. I don't know if they're still listening or not, but if you are, email us. But, there's people in different parts of the world that are listening to this. And that I think that's pretty cool.
What do you think your next hobby is going to be?
Well, hunting season is over. Oh, one of my hobbies, which I said archery, but I went to 3D tournaments one year for a while. I thought that was cool. I wish I could get back into that, but I don't have enough time. Justin wants to start a band. You're saying she's shaking her head. No, Justin, just don't have enough time for that. I don't know what my next hobby is going to be.
Just make sure it's something that 3 small boys can also participate in.
One of them could play the tangerine.
Tangerine?
Wait, that's not a tambourine. Tambourine, not tangerine.
Tangerine.
Tambourine, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
No,
well, okay, so thinking back, being a little sentimental probably about our marriage and about our time together and our relationship, because we've been together now. December was 13 years since we started dating. So 13 and a half, or, whatever, 13 years and some change. And we've been through so many phases of life together, like from college to trying to find our faith again, getting married, having kids, not being involved in church, then getting involved in church, then moving and again not being involved in church. And, you've talked before about the big part about getting involved in church is like finding a small group. And we found that again recently. So I guess my question is, what would be your advice to a new couple or young couple with young kids who, we've been there, like your kids are sick every weekend, it feels like, and they're really having a hard time finding a church that feels like home and having a good relationship with God. What would be your advice for them?
I think you have to make a big effort. And, when you've got little babies and like you said, they're sick all the time, it's very easy to wake up and say, oh, we're just going to stay home on this Sunday morning and let them sleep in, and we're going to lay in bed all morning and wake up at 11. That's really easy, but you got to do a very good job, or you got to put a very strong effort into getting out there and finding a church. We've gone through that phase where, we're nervous. We don't, I guess we went through a phase where our little ones would scream and cry when they saw the church because they didn't want to go to the nursery. So, that makes it tough. But you just have to, realize the bigger picture of that's where you need to be. And, you need to make that effort in it. So I think you just have to, if you're going to a church and you're not feeling comfortable there, you don't feel like you're getting plugged in, or you don't feel like you just feel like you want to get up and go. I think you got to make the effort and find another church and try. It may take going to 3 or 4 or 5 different churches in your area until you find one you like. But, like for us, when we started, we got plugged in here at our church now, and you almost feel like when Sunday morning rolls around, you almost feel like you don't like it. It's not even a, right. Are we going to stay home this morning? It's unless we're of course very sick, but it's like no, we're getting up and going. And, you just have to make that effort to get out there and find something that fits. But like I said, sometimes it can be hard work, especially with little ones, but you just have to make yourself make that effort to get out and find something. What's your advice?
Yeah. I mean, I think because we've had sickness of our own, and like when we are sick, we watch the Facebook Live of the church or whatever. But I think the important thing there is I've always viewed it as these kids are not really our kids. They are God's kids, and He's called us to bring them to Him, like create Christians, create disciples. And so our kids need to see us be excited about church and make church a priority and spending time. And like our kids love our Sunday Night Live group with our small group. Like when we didn't go because one of them wasn't feeling good, like it was anarchy in this house. They were so mad because they love to get it together with their friends, and they love to spend time with the other Christian kids. And it's so good for them to see other families who believe the same things that we believe. But I think it's just important that your kids see you make it a priority.
And if you're wanting to raise good, godly children, but they grow up watching you skip church most 2 or 3 times a month because you don't want to wake up in time, what kind of lesson is that teaching your kids?
And I think it goes back to just, if it was up to our kids, like these parents who sometimes like let their kids make all the decisions. I'm like, if it was up to our kids, they would be on screens for 23 hours a day, and the other hour they would be, I don't know, eating pizza or like going to Little Caesars every day to get pizza. It's not in their nature in the beginning to want to do what's right, essentially. Like they come out, they want to run into traffic. They want to run through the parking lot. It's all about keeping them alive. And so I kind of have looked at it like, it's our responsibility to do this. God has called us to do this. It says in the Bible multiple times, like, this is our responsibility. This is what we're supposed to be doing for them. And so if I'm not doing it well, not only am I setting my kids up for failure, but I'm also disappointing God and like the promises that I've made to Him. And so I think we're doing a good job. Our kids are excited about church. Our kids enjoy church. They share the gospel with their friends. That part, the rest of it, we're not doing so good. But that part of it, we're doing a great job. The rest of parenting it's not going so good, but that part's going great. But 9-year-old, I don't know. Yeah. Something about a 9-year-old. Caleb, my last question is, we have some very unique children who have very different interests than you. Especially one of them has very different interests than you. So how do you plan as he gets older? Because he's our first one, so we have no idea what we're going to do with him. Every stage is a brand new experience for us. How do you think you're going to be able to relate to him as he gets older? And how are you going to be able to turn his interest into something positive that leads him back to God?
That is a good question. I think about that every once in a while. I think, and a lot of dads, and you see this a lot in small towns, they kind of force their kids to do certain things. Maybe it's they force their kid to play a certain sport, and they only want them to do it because they did it and they loved it and they enjoyed it. Like when I was in school, I enjoyed playing football, baseball, all that stuff. But I have the attitude of, if my kid doesn't want to do that and is not interested in that, that doesn't bother me at all. I'm not going to force them to do things that just because I liked it. I want them to pursue their own interest. But like you said, I also have to make that effort in order to understand their interest and be a part of it and make it a part of my life. And like you said, focus and lead it to God. But the big thing is not forcing my hobbies and interest and likes on them, even though sometimes I try to. Actually, I try to a lot, but just because, or go ahead.
I'll back you up. You're not forcing it on them. You're exposing them to it. They're experiencing it, but then you let it go pretty quick when he's like, no, I'd rather not.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just to, show them that there is a whole world out there and that they're a unique person and individual, and they can pursue something that they like, as long as it's, of course, a godly thing to do and something that's good. And I think you always, like you said, we get them in church, we read them the Bible as much as we can, and you share God's word with them, you share the gospel with them, and you try to do your best just to live a godly life and show that example to them, and let them pursue things that they enjoy and support them and be a part of it. And, like our oldest, like he enjoys writing comics and books. And so we read thousands of comics over the last several years, and we enjoy, he enjoys it, and we enjoy reading it and looking at it and talking about it. And
he told me today that he's pretty sure he wrote 5,000 comics last year, and that his goal for this year is 10,000. So get ready.
I believe it.
But and that's the thing, is you can do whatever you want to try to do to make your kid a certain way, but they're going to come out and be their own person. And all three of our boys are completely different interests, which makes parenting a little difficult sometimes, because what worked for one doesn't work for the other, and what worked for them is not going to work for the third. And that's why mostly we just let Jesus handle it.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up. Unless you have anything else to say.
I don't think so.
She said, I don't think so. All right. So normally Dustin closes us out. So I guess he says, and that was the podcast episode.
He says, and that was the podcast episode?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
I think he says, thank you for listening to this week's episode.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Raising the Wild Ones podcast.
Join our Patreon.
Well, with the miracles of podcast editing, I can still actually close it out. And, now that they said that, I have no idea how we actually close this podcast out sometimes. So, there you go. Thank you guys for listening to Raising the Wild Ones podcast. We really enjoyed this episode, getting to listen to Caleb and Jessica just go back and forth. A lot of really good stuff in there. Be sure to follow us on our Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of fun stuff. If you guys want to drop us a line, give us a message, just anything like that, just send us an email at raisingwildonespodcast@gmail.com. And be sure to tell your friends, right? Caleb did say it's not hunting season anymore, so it's perfect time just to sit around a fire and just tell your friends about this podcast. And so thank you guys so much for listening. Now I'm going to shoot it over to Caleb, where he's going to tell you a little bit about Patreon.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to reach out and bring you some exciting news. Our Patreon is now live. Patreon is a way to support this podcast so we can keep it going. For $6 a month, which is the cost of a cup of coffee, you get exclusive content that is for members only. This includes special episodes, show notes, and early release of our upcoming episodes. As we grow, more will become available through our membership. Another exciting thing is that we will donate $1 out of the $6 membership fee to missions. This money will go into the hands of missionaries on the ground doing the Lord's work. We are working on this and will hopefully have a podcast episode where we interview the missionary soon, so stay tuned for this. So go to patreon.com/Raising the Wild Ones podcast, or click on the link to our Patreon site in the show notes below. Thank you for supporting this podcast, and God bless.